What's up, Domino community? I'm Lily Hevish, and today I'll be teaching you how to build a 3D pyramid. So get your dominoes and let's start building. The 3D pyramid is one of the most basic domino structures and probably an essential trick to put in your toolkit. It has 3 dimensions, so we have length, width, and height. All you really need is just a couple hundred dominoes, preferably more if you can, because the bigger you make the pyramid, the more reliable it'll be when it actually topples over. Let's dive right into the tutorial. So the first step when making a 3D domino pyramid is we're going to take our domino and place it horizontally in front of us like this. And then the next domino is going to be placed over here. And the distance between these 2 dominoes should be 1 domino height from edge to edge. And it should overlap this way by exactly 1 domino thickness. So I'm actually going to use a purple domino so you can see that a little bit better. You'll see that the purple domino is perfectly in line with the edge on this orange domino, as well as this side over here. And if you look on the left and right side of the domino, you'll see it's also in line here and on the other side. So we're going to repeat this module multiple times to make the base layer a little bit larger. I would recommend making the first 2 layers at once because the second layer does help you measure out how large that base should be. And it's really important that the base especially is very precise. So take a little bit of extra time to make sure that the distances are all aligned. It's all very straight and parallel. Like, you don't want to see dominoes that are sticking out, because if it's not exactly on the edge, it's going to make it a little bit more compact and actually make it harder for the dominoes to topple because it's more stable that way. And although we do want the structure to be stable, like we don't want it to topple over by accident, we don't want it to be too stable because we also want it to fall over at the end. So just be really careful, move the dominoes on the edge, and just really check the base layer to make sure it looks very perfect. So the next domino is going to be placed in line with this other orange domino, and we're going to add another one here, and we're going to place the purple domino on this side. Now note, for the 3D pyramid, you will never see 2 dominoes that are perfectly square with each other. For example, I would never put a domino here. Instead, I would shift it over 1 so that it's sort of on a diagonal. And if I were to put another domino on top, right here, this would technically connect all of the layers. And you'll see from the sides that everything is overlapping by a domino thickness. So I'm just gonna take off this domino just so you can see the second layer a little better as I'm building the rest of it. But just for reference, every section that you add should be 1 domino height away from the next layer. So let's continue making this a little bit larger. We'll add another domino right here. So this, for example, would be the base layer for a 3x3 domino pyramid. This is very small. If I were to make this a full pyramid, it probably wouldn't topple just because it's not big enough. So I'm gonna continue making more layers and then we'll see how big we can make it. Now, one thing that you can do if you wanna be really precise is get a ruler or straight edge and use this to make the rows so everything will be really straight. For example, these orange dominoes in this line will continue on the same line like this. So these are the first 2 layers of the 7x7 3D domino pyramid, and if you notice, there's a lot of interesting geometry in the base layers. So for example, if you look this way, all of the purple dominoes make a line on each row, and the distance between each purple domino is the same for every purple domino. And the first layer is pretty much the same as the second layer, except it's rotated 90 degrees. Now, if you look at the pyramid in terms of what's actually connected right now, you'll see that the orange and the purple dominoes together make a row. So like all of this would be a row. This would be another like diagonal row. It's all of these diagonals that are connected together. And this is basically the same technique as the diagonal wall method, except now we're making it 3D instead of 2D. So once you have the first 2 layers done, you've checked it over, made sure that every domino is really precise, then we can start making the next row. Now for the third layer, we're going to connect the diagonals that we've already made by placing a domino right here. Now when you're placing the third row, it's really important to note that the dominoes are not over another orange domino. Like, you would never see a domino with just 1 window gap underneath. There will always be more than 1 window gap. So we're just going to continue connecting all the diagonals. And similarly, you also wouldn't find a domino that is a square like this. If you see this, you know that you've placed it in the wrong spot, so just shift it over by one, and then that should be good. Now, building structures is a very slow, careful process. You do have to be pretty precise, so just take your time with it. Make sure you get all the distances really in line with each other. All right, now we have 3 layers done. So now we can make the 4th layer, and then everything will just repeat. Now for the 4th row, we're going to place the domino over the larger window gap, not the smaller window gap right here, because there's only one there, but the larger one, which will then connect all of the diagonals. The pattern is really simple with a 3D pyramid. It's just diagonals on diagonals and making sure that you don't have any parallel square dominoes. Everything is pretty repetitive, so once you have that pattern down, you can continue making more layers. You can add stuff more on the sides if you want to make it a bigger pyramid, or you don't even have to fill up the entire pyramid. It could be a flat pyramid and just like cut it off here. And now I'm just going to continue building up until we have a full 7x7 pyramid. It's kind of nice when you're building a 3D pyramid because every layer, slowly but surely, has less dominoes, so it feels like it's faster when you're building it. And one more. There we go. So here we have the finished 7x7 3D domino pyramid. It uses 252 dominoes. Now, if you are making this in a setup, I would recommend making it a little larger if you can, maybe an 8x8 or a 9x9. The more dominoes that are actually in your pyramid, the more reliable it will be. Now, to topple a pyramid, really all you need to do is take out one domino from one of the corners. So you could take out this one, or you could take out this one, or even this one here, or one in the back. Or if you don't want to take it out by hand, you could have a domino line knock it down. So I'm going to knock down primarily the one right here. Now, the trick when making a domino line to knock down a pyramid is you want the line to topple away from the pyramid and not into the pyramid. So for example, I would not want to have a domino line right here, because the domino would fall into the structure and that has a better chance of locking up and not actually toppling the dominoes that are above it. So to avoid this, we can move the domino and put it right here. So it's going to knock it out sort of from the side, and then we can continue the domino line. Or if you want to knock it down from the left or the right side, you can knock it down this way, so it topples away from the pyramid. And because this pyramid is somewhat small, it's just a 7x7, I'm going to knock it down on 2 sides rather than just one, just for safety. So I'm going to connect this green line on this side to the one that we already started in the front. All right, so now we have the triggers in place. When the screen line falls, it'll take out the first domino in the front of the pyramid, which then afterwards will knock down the entire structure and also trigger this backup line to hit the side in case it needs a little bit more force to knock down the pyramid. Now, if you make a much larger domino pyramid, you probably don't need a backup line, but it's always nice to put if you have something that's like less than 10x10. That's what I would recommend. That'll also depend on how neatly you build the structure, what types of dominoes you use, because that'll kind of affect how stable it is or how easily the dominoes will fall. But yeah, that looks great. Let's knock it down. Nice. So if we watch the video back in slow motion, the domino line topples, which then triggers the purple domino, and then the green domino on top no longer has a support, so that falls over, and then the one on top of that falls over, and it just creates a chain reaction where more dominoes crumble into the structure, which knocks things over, and then the entire pyramid topples. Super cool. Now, with 3D pyramids, it is very common to have a couple of dominoes standing on the sides. You don't really have to worry about those. It still worked if the pyramid is pretty much all fallen. But of course, the more dominoes you use in the structure, the more likely it is that these will topple as well. This type of pyramid is really useful when you're making projects. Not only can you make a full 3D pyramid, but you can make it a long pyramid. There are a whole bunch of ways that you can use this technique. If you want to learn how to build even more domino tricks, I have a playlist right over here and in the description for all of my how-to videos. Now, one thing to note, when you're building domino structures, it'll be much easier to set up if you're using precise toppling dominoes. So I do recommend my own H5 domino creations. These are the most precise dominoes that are specifically made for toppling, and I've designed these with Spin Master to make sure that these are the best dominoes for setting up and knocking down. So if you're interested in getting dominoes, just go to heavish5.com/buydominoes. We've also got the neon set and the classic set with even more dominoes and accessories. And before I go, I want to give a shout out to our featured community member, Ben Domino, who made a super cool recreation of my domino spiral. Well done, and as always, I'm Lily Heavish, and keep on building.